thoughts on the first half and everything you guys endured and how you came out of it.
Yes. Part of the fun thing about this game, I guess, is that every year is different, and this was a really odd first half. I think if you told me we were 12 over at the break, I'd be okay. Like, that seems solid, but the way we got there was so strange. The winning streaks, the 35 games, having the worst offense in baseball, and struggling, the injuries. I mean, it's been an odd half. I think I said the other day, doesn't mean necessarily the second half's going to be like that. It could be very, very consistent. You just don't know. But I was proud of our guys. I thought we finished, strong. We played well. Those last two series kind of heading into the break. And I think that's a hard thing to do. I've been around a lot of teams that, maybe coasted that last weekend. People start looking forward to the break. And I thought our guys did a really good job of, finishing strong, winning the last two games in Cincinnati and getting to the break. And so, no, I think that's my assessment. We've put ourselves in good position, but obviously I know we can play even better. And the hope is that we kind of get our footing and do that.
What is the injury status of some of your players?
Craig will talk about more of that. I think he's going to kind of go through the injury stuff. But, I mean, the hope is that, guys can start getting healthy and trickling back, Hopefully Jameson will pitch coming up next week. He's the closest, but, the hope is that the guys start to trickle back, that we keep getting good news on guys, and it'd be great to be in that position.
You mentioned playing better. How much is that reliant on pitchers getting healthy? Because also the offense seems to be, before the break at least, starting to.
Yeah, the position playing group has played really well as a collective. Obviously, there's guys that have been fantastic and above their norms, and there's some guys that that probably didn't have the first half they wanted, but as a group, I think that group has been really good. I wouldn't say consistent, but they've been the first half was positive in that regard. From a pitching staff standpoint, obviously, it's been a challenge. With all the injuries, I think that's been challenging to sort of get to steady footing, so to speak. And I think that's probably what I mean more than anything. The hope is that we can get to that place, and we may seek that out the entire time. But getting to a place of a little bit more stability, pitching wise, would be wonderful.
I mean, certainly the Brewers are within striking distance, and you look at it as if you track them down, you really have a good shot at the bye as well. When you look at it all. Yeah,
I've said a number of times. I think you have to go into the deadline thinking about you have to think about it analytically, and you have to think about getting a bye is effectively winning a series and weakening your opponent in the next series. That's a really big deal. So if the odds say that you can do that's a different equation than if not. I think you have to be aware of those things. I think, and we certainly will be.
But 5 games feels a lot doable, right? I mean, more when you're even 8, 9, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a number that you can do.
And there's also, I don't know, there's 17 days till the deadline. There's also a lot of time before the deadline. I mean, we were a clear seller at this point in 23, and I think that's the part of all of this. I think there's so much uncertainty about who's going to be buying, who's going to be selling. There's probably some team that's talking about selling right now that ends up buying, and vice versa. And that's because it isn't tomorrow. It's because we have almost 3 weeks until the deadline, and so I expect things will gain clarity towards the very end when teams finally get to that point, because there's a lot of time, and someone's going to go on a heater before that. And we actually even saw that at the end of the first half. Some teams that people had already traded off certain teams' players, and now that they teams certain teams that could be buyers. And so I just think that we got to wait, and we got to get closer to the deadline this year. Some years it's not that case, but this year it's so jumbled, and everyone in the AL pretty much is still very much in the race.
Do you expect to be a buyer?
Yeah, I mean, we put ourselves in a really good position, and as I've said, I think that I'm not ruling out any kind of position player transaction, but the expectation would be that we'll focus on our pitching staff.
Whatever types of moves you may make at the deadline, can you kind of describe the state of your system and your ability to make any type of move?
Yeah, I think it's been a really good season so far for our system, position players in particular. I think we've had a lot of real breakouts, which has been good. That isn't sort of talking about desire to trade, but in terms of that, I think it's been really positive from a breakout standpoint, from a position player performance standpoint, and it's super important. That's the future. I think that I use Pedro Ramirez as an example. Right, it's like he's a guy that was in our system that was people weren't talking about a ton last year. He was in Tennessee, and he went to AAA this year. Played great. He's been up here. He's contributed to winning. So the players that people are talking about as trade chips at this point, those are players that next year may well be impacting us. And I think that you always have to just keep that in mind. That I think we have a lot of guys that I think can help us here pretty quickly.
What's it been like to watch Pete kind of grow up as a hitter?
Yeah, a lot of fun. I mean, he's this is sort of the way he's played for the last 6 weeks or so is kind of what you hoped he would get to eventually, and he got there really quickly. Now, obviously, he's going to have to maintain it and stay there, but there's some of the great at bats he's had. I think I referenced the Morion at bat against the Padres. One of the best lefty relievers in baseball. To foul off a bunch of pitches and draw a walk on a chase slider was super impressive. And then the other day he was facing Mole with Cincinnati, and I found myself thinking, he's going to walk him, and I was like, wow, that is 180. I never would have thought that last year, that he was going to face that kind of guy, and that's he has a job to get Pete out, and he's not going to chase the breaking ball away. He's going to have a disciplined approach, and he's kind of impossible when you get to that place. I think that the ability to impact on the bases, so you can't pitch around him because it's an extra base hit, and if you pitch to him, it might be an extra base hit. So I think that's the real beauty is he can get in scoring position so easily, and you can't walk guys like that, and so. It's been fun to watch. Like I said, he's got to maintain this approach, but this current approach is exactly I think what we always hoped he could get to. This came a lot faster than we thought.
What's it like for you to see the team celebrate the championship of 2016?
I mean, it's obviously I'm going to have a fun weekend. It's great to see people. I was here the other night for the concert, and Jake was here and Lackey was here, and it was great to see those guys intermingling with, I think Nico and Pete were here, and I love that aspect, having those groups sort of intermingle. I think for me, I've sort of had multiple chapters with the Cubs, and so that is we came in here and rebuilt, and that was the result, and I think that is it's super gratifying to see those guys. It was an awesome chapter. I'm currently focused on this chapter, so I have to kind of toggle back and forth mentally between my current job and what we accomplished in the past. And the reason you do these jobs is to have moments like that and to have 10-year reunions and to have those kind of celebrations. I mean, that's why you do these things. But I also know we have a focus on doing it again, and so. I try to go back and forth mentally, but it's fun, and it's a great group of guys too. I think that they're, I think that when you go through a lot with a group of guys, you lose in 15 and you win in 16, and then most of those guys are around for a while after. I think when you go through a lot with them, it creates a closeness, and I've seen these guys a few times this year, but it'll be a great weekend, and they deserve everything. Breaking a curse that people thought wasn't going to be broken. I think it takes a closeness and takes a lot of fortitude, and so these guys, this is what they deserve, and they deserve it at 15 and 20 and 25, and I'm sure they'll get it.
Does it give you any renewed hunger to do it with you as the lead decision maker here 10 or more years later?
Yeah, I don't think renewed. I mean, I think it's always there. I think it's I say this all the time. I think that the times I've been fortunate enough to win, I think you sort of take those moments and I would say you sort of put them up on a shelf in your mind and you move on. I don't wear my rings. I should probably know where they are, but it's I just think that the job is sort of the next one, and then focusing on that part of it. But it's nice every once in a while when something like this comes up. It sort of forces you to take the book off the shelf and look through it, and it's fun. They're doing some documentary stuff, and I did a bunch of filming one day, and I have these like really cool books that my wife made, and we were like looking through them. I was like, oh my god, like these sit here all the time. I don't look through them on a daily basis, and I was kind of going through them, and it was an awesome period, and it's fun to relive it for a little bit, and then sort of go back to focusing on now.
Talk about an expected focus on pitching coming up at the deadline. How does getting a couple guys back from injury kind of impact what sort of pitching you go at?
I don't think it impacts it much, honestly. I think that, I think I've said to you guys a million times, you can't have enough pitching. You never have too much. You never have enough. And this first half has kind of proven that. We thought we went in with real depth, and we got to the end of our depth and had to trade for guys and pick up guys. And so I think the hope of guys coming back off the injured list, I don't think that's going to temper our need. I'd love to have it. We have too much. I don't see that ever really happening. So I don't think that will impact it considerably. And most, Craig will talk about it more, but most of the timelines aren't sort of deadline. So
what are some of the longer shots like Hunter Harvey, Shelby Miller, Justin we talk about a lot, but are any chances of seeing those guys this year?
Yeah, for sure. But I think you actually said it pretty well. Like those guys, they're later, in the year. They're coming off of a lot of inactivity, so it's hard to know sort of exactly what you're getting back. So I look at those as like great bonus things, if that makes sense. Like if we can get those guys back and healthy and they can produce, obviously all those guys have the ability to produce at a high level, but I don't think we can be making those assumptions as we lead into the deadline, because they probably all have 4 to 6 weeks left, and so I don't think you can make those assumptions.
We asked you this before the break, and it's not like labor got any clearer during the All-Star break. I was there covering it. So, do you think it's?
I just want to talk about Getz in the war room. I don't really. The rest of your stuff is irrelevant.
Pretty good, yeah. You can learn. Okay. Do you think the deadline's more towards rentals because of? You don't want to lose 3 months off a contract, that you trade for. You're not sure yet.
I don't know yet. That's my real answer. I don't know how it'll price out at the end. People have very different thoughts about it, so it'll be interesting to see. I'd be surprised if it had no impact. I'd also be surprised if it had a massive impact on it. So I think the biggest impact is simply going to be it's a weird year as far as lack of clear sellers. And I might was. There's 4 American League teams with 50 wins. I just think that everyone being bunched up is going to have a huge impact. And then I think you also have a number of teams, some of the teams that could be sellers. They're not entering rebuilds. They're sort of like, okay, this didn't work. Let's, kind of regroup for next year type of thing. Let's be prudent about where we are and gather some assets for the future, but they're not entering a rebuild. So I think you've got kind of those two factors, and so I think that's going to be more of a factor than the labor stuff, honestly.
Hey, Jed, when you look at your own team, does it sort of pass that eye test of what it looks like in October? Have they shown you enough to where maybe you're going to be a little bit less prudent and invest more this year?
Yeah, I'll try to not get overly emotional about it and try to stick to the numbers and try to make sure that we're doing things that make sense on paper. But yeah, I think I think our position playing group is really, really good. I guess I would say that. I think that obviously we had a lull there for a while, but the offense and defense part of it I think is impressive, and I think that that's a group that could win a lot of games in October. I think that obviously the challenge for us has simply been just pitching injuries and making sure that, and then the whole team matters, right? It's not just but I think our positional playing group for sure has been super impressive.
Is there everything you look at an explanation at times to the streakiness in the first half? I'm kind of a curiosity question. Is there anything to explain, or is that randomness in this game what you guys went through?
I think it's randomness. I mean, I think our team, last year, like not that dissimilar to this year in a lot of ways, and we were the exact opposite. I don't think we won 5 in a row after like April 5th or something like that, and we didn't lose 5 in a row until after we clinched, and so I think it's pretty random. I know that's a boring answer and might doesn't satisfy people, but like I don't really have an explanation. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I think I might have had 5 or so 10-game winning streaks like in my career, and we almost did it 3 times in the first half. I mean, so I think that that feels pretty random. Yeah.
When it comes to adding pitchers, I know you guys are all about out-getters, but is it important to find someone that can give you 5-6 innings?
Well, don't get me wrong. Craig likes out-getters. He also likes, not burning through the bullpen all the time. So I think it's important to be able to, give him some stability. I think that getting 18 or even 21 outs in a game, it makes the next game a lot easier. So yeah, I think acting as though innings from a starter don't matter at all. I think that it has a cascading impact that I think is real. So yeah, of course that'd be important.
What's the part that sticks out to you about the pen as they've, had to grind through these injuries and do all these different roles?
Yeah, I think it's a real mental toughness. I think that these guys, and I would say our coaches have done a really good job with them. We've had zero continuity. We've been churning through guys like crazy, and guys have kind of come out of the bullpen and thrown well. Obviously, we've had a couple bad games, but that's the nature of bullpens. But by and large, I think they've showed a real grit to them, being put in weird spots, weird positions. Guys coming and going all the time. So I think that part's been impressive, and I think that's a testament to the players, and I think it's also a testament to our coaches to get those guys in position to do that.
Can there be, when you describe that with this defense, the fact that there is a continuity in what these pitchers have behind them and part of the foundation of this team, does it stick out to you the first half and how this defense really played a role?
I do think it gives our pitchers real confidence. If you throw strikes and the ball's put in play, I think that our guys make plays, and obviously that's one of the challenges with some of the times we've had home run problems is we can't catch those. And, I think when the ball's in play, I think we're really good. And I think sometimes, sometimes the defense is, dancing me, the diving plays last week. Sometimes it's spectacular, but sometimes it's just a really good turn, or it's, Pete running down a ball in the gap that looks easy, that it was, a double, for another team. And so, if you're a pitcher for this team and you throw strikes, and keep the ball in the ballpark, good things are going to happen. And then I think that gives those guys a lot of confidence.
Jed, it looks like you guys are playing tonight.
I think it's on the schedule, right?
What's my question? There was a game canceled.
Was there a game canceled? I didn't see it. Did they?
What's kind of the criteria or guidelines?
It's mostly coughing. Coughing. If they start coughing, no.
You're clearly concerned about it.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, no. I mean, my kids. I think kids are playing tonight, so they got canceled last night. My sense is that the numbers are within bounds to play, but yeah, I know. Last night, both my kids had games canceled, and I do wonder. Last night, I don't know what it was here. I know where I was north of here, it was terrible. I don't know if we would have played last night, candidly, but my sense is that we're going to play tonight. So not to be flippant about it, but yes, we're going to play.
Is it ever a relief when your kids' games get canceled? I had enough.
No.
No? All right.
It means you have to entertain them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's your chance to go during the All-Star break.
Yes.
I know.
It's a tough,
I know. Well, they're in the playoffs too, so it was a big deal. You got to move playoff games. But no, last night was the right decision. That was odd. That was it looked eerie.